Just to introduce myself briefly, I know I've met a few of you before when I've jumped in on sessions previously, and you know I like to talk a lot, so this is ideal. But also it's a lot of what I talk about is geared to XR, because I've been in sort of this space, specifically sort of social VR, for over 3 years now. It's something that I'm super passionate about from when I first picked it up. Well, that's a lie. When I first picked it up was in a platform called High Fidelity. And this says something about the initial friction and how things have changed over time. It was just to explain social VR, because I tend to just go into it and assume some background knowledge. But essentially, social VR applications, you don't have to, a lot of them you don't have to access with a virtual reality headset. But they're essentially what it says on the tin, really. So it's like a social network inside a 3D virtual environment where you can embody avatars and you can communicate with each other through spatial audio and moving around the space. And as Nikki said, have all kinds of events in these spaces. But my first introduction to it was, I think I turned up into this platform with a mask on my face, and there was something wrong, so I couldn't see. So I must have accidentally picked up a mask, like an interactable object. It's gone in front of my vision and I couldn't see. And I pretty much panicked and got out of there. And I didn't revisit the space for about a month. And it was interesting because I saw a video from the CEO of the platform, and it was really interesting what he was talking about. And he was talking about struggles in virtual reality with sort of thin objects, the physics, and putting like a thin bit of paper on like a thin table, and how it would fall through, and how, you know, the more advanced we get with sort of our technology, computer systems, the easier we'll be able to get around these difficulties. And then I jumped back into his platform. And I think it was like a few days later, I was introduced to him on his own platform after seeing the video, and then got talking to him. And I ended up on his platform playing table tennis with him, and we were trying to get around sort of, you know, physics tests essentially on the platform, and working out what the problem is, and how some of us, you know, one of us is registering the ball in one position on their computer, the other person's registering it somewhere else. So it was really, really interesting. But it's interesting to hear you talking about, was it Nicole, you said you've actually done something in virtual reality, so virtual like leadership training, was it?
Yeah, we wanted to bring the vision, mission to the leaders in kind of virtual reality. And yeah, but it was good, but it was not that successful we expected, because yeah, it was a test and we tried it, and we will keep it on. But yeah, you need the experience and experts to really make it worth to do it.
Yeah, that's the thing that I've noticed with companies and people I'm working with, that some people, it's very typical for, like, in general across a lot of industries, that people want to find sort of a unicorn, someone who they can just does it all, and go, and they can just hand it over and go, just do it. And people I've worked with, I always say, be practitioners and jump into these platforms, so you at least have some understanding of like where the limitations are, because it's quite easy to get carried away, like be sort of overly romantic with how things are now with virtual reality. But yeah, I always advise people I'm working with to jump in first, so you can see what's possible. But yeah, a little bit more about me, sort of background. So specifically what I do in virtual reality is virtual world building, which I'm hoping is a term you'll hear more and more. And I actually, a friend who's a virtual reality DJ, she often, when clients, she learned to DJ through a virtual reality platform called Tribe XR, which is so much better than spending all the money on the equipment and then realizing perhaps you don't like it. She learned in a virtual platform, realized she did like it, bought everything she needed, and now she sort of DJs. She also did, before pre-COVID, like real live events where she would actually DJ with the headset on, and they could see her in virtual reality on the screen behind. So interesting mix of things that she's done. But often when she speaks to clients, one of the things she says is, do you have a world builder? Which is, I'm hoping for my business, is a term you'll hear more and more in the space. But yeah, so that's, I actually built a venue for her to DJ in Altspace, also for her. It's cross-platform, so there's multiple social VR platforms that she'll DJ in, and it's most of the time it tends to be from the games engine Unity. I'll put it in there, the world I built, and then I'll upload it into Altspace, which is the same with Nikki's world in Altspace. And I've got a couple more in the pipeline now, worlds that I'm working on. But also my experience is quite mixed, because at one point I decided I was going to go full on headfirst into virtual reality esports. So I became the captain of a team in a military simulator game called Onward. So I was the captain of a team in like a league with prize money. But the top team were incredibly good at it, very hard to beat. And on top of that, I'm also doing a couple other things, but I'm working at the moment with sort of art therapy. So XR and art therapy, so virtual reality art therapy. And I'm co-founder of a company that I'm setting up with a friend at the moment, which is specifically for XR art therapy. So I'm interested in coming at this from lots of different angles, but at the moment, very interested in how the technology can be used specifically to help with what's going on now, and sort of real world problems that people are having, not just to kind of how do we escape, but how can this be used for remote helping people remotely with a variety of different things. And I do think events still comes into that, because I think a lot of sort of stress and depression that people are getting these days with everything going on is because they're missing out on a lot of activities that they would normally do, specifically social activities. So yeah, that's a bit about me. A few things, I probably left a few things out there, but we'll fill in the blanks as we go along. Is there, just out of curiosity, is there anything specifically anyone, have you all been in virtual reality social platform of some sort?
Yes.
You have? No, has?
I haven't.
Marcus still has to gear up.
Oh, okay. Well, you can access it in 2D. There is a big difference. I find myself spending a lot of time in 2D because I'm normally building something while I'm in there. So I'll be using software like Blender to create a 3D model in the space while simultaneously talking to people in a virtual reality social platform like Altspace, which is the main one. But that's actually how I learned 3D modeling, which is why I'm very, very big on VR social platforms as well, because I think it's incredibly useful resource. And I had someone in a call recently say, my son's trying to get involved. How does he get into this space? And I was just like, get him onto a virtual reality social platform. I think he was 17, I think, his son.
So what advice would you give someone who hasn't yet? And maybe Martina, have you?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Nicole, have you?
Yeah, I tried the glasses and the rooms the Oculus provided to us, or YouTube is providing for free for the virtual.
Do you have anything with you now?
No.
Okay. So Niall, so I'm sorry, sorry, Liam. So I haven't.
Yep.
So I've got a VR capability if I put a Samsung or a Apple phone into it.
Okay. So
So
the mobile VR ones, yeah.
bit of a cheap thing.
Yeah.
You have 2 weeks to go, Marcus.
I know. I've got an Oculus Rift on order.
Yes. Yeah.
So what would you suggest right now that I should quickly go and access to give myself just a little bit of a clue?
Okay. Well, right now, I'd probably say you should look at the 2D mode, which seems like a strange thing for me to say, but you can access platforms like Altspace before you have access to virtual reality. I'd say it's definitely worth checking out the space.
Would you like to demo something? Is that possible?
Yeah, I can. Let me open Altspace, and I can show you in 2D me jumping in right now. Let me 1 second. I'll just load it up. I should have had this ready. But yeah, the problem with the mobile VR is, and a lot of people in the industry would say the same thing, it's to a degree done a disservice to virtual reality in terms of what is actually capable, and sort of, a lot of people will use it and they'll look at the resolution, they'll say, I've tried virtual reality, it's not any good.
Yeah.
And my response is, you haven't tried virtual reality.
Good.
Because the resolution, you know, even for example, I've been early on the Facebook have their own VR social platform Horizon, and I've been building on there for a little while. I was lucky enough to get invited to sort of want to be one of the first sort of pre-alpha testers of the platform. And when I started it, it was only available on my Rift. And there's like internal scripting tools that you use on there. So if you imagine a screen in front of you and you're writing code and you're making mini games, so you're creating triggers and you're writing a script that says when someone enters this trigger, it does this. It's a great tool, great platform, even for sort of creating MVPs as well, if you're especially into game development and areas like that. But I was doing it on a Rift, and I noticed I was getting headaches because you can adjust your scale and your size, and I was trying to read something. And I noticed I was getting really bad headaches, and I said, I can't keep doing this on your platform, getting headaches. They provided me with a Quest. I did it on the Quest, and I haven't had that problem again since, purely because the resolution, and that's Quest 1. That's not Q2 I'm talking about. So I think resolution is very important. And I think when you're, I'm reading a book at the moment, I definitely recommend, which is Reality Check by Jeremy Dalton. And he talks about sort of almost not misuse, but people, their intention is to sort of sell virtual reality or to encourage people to use it, and they often recommend ways of using it, or even platforms. I've got a friend that swears by Rec Room and says, first experience, we're working with therapists who have never used the technology before, and we're trying to introduce them. And if you're in the wrong platform and you're trying to get people to move around, people can get motion sickness quite quickly. Whereas some platforms, it's not an issue. And part of that can be down to the devices people are using, but also it's down to the platform itself. So I would say the best thing, again, I'll try and open up now. Let's see if I can get this. Show you what I'm doing right here. Share screen. Right, can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So this is Altspace in desktop mode. And again, I may take for granted how intuitive the controls are in desktop mode for me, because I'm a gamer. I enjoy gaming, so I'm very, very used to the controls. But this is just a simple idea. This is a work in progress, but it happens to be my home at the moment. But we were just looking at creating a space where people could come to and teleport to different like virtual worlds through this one space. So this is Club Atlantis, and this is I'll just teleport there, show you how this works. And this is the DJ venue that I created. I should say I created it with Natasha, or DJ Illuminati is her DJ name in Altspace, and we created it together. She's a 3D artist as well as a VR DJ. Oh, she's added some stuff in here since I've last been in here. So we worked on this space together, and it'd be good if I could show you the videos of when it was populated, but she's added, okay, so she's got some new promotional material she's putting in now. But the idea, she came to me and said about 4 different themes. I think she said one of them was sort of Atlantis underwater city theme. Then we had sort of like sci-fi futuristic, and then sort of I think it was a Pantheon theme. So we kind of worked together to get something like a design down that she liked the idea of, that crossed everything. I ticked all the boxes basically. So this is a work in progress that we're doing, because we're actually going to populate this outside area with some moving fish and things like that. We had a whale at one point going around. But it's another thing to consider, that if you are jumping into these platforms, is the limitations in terms of size of what you can bring in. So, and that's why clients I'm working with, the ideal clients have already gone into Altspace. They've looked around and they've seen what's possible, and they've seen the worlds. Because the first thing I'll tell them is that, the size of stuff that you can bring in platforms like this is quite small. So there's almost tricks you have to use to get more detail in the designs and things you're building. I'll jump off the edge there, trying to make you dizzy.
What do you mean by the size is
the size of the model, in terms of, when I talk about sizes, I mean the sort of faces, the amount of faces. So when I create models in Blender, obviously if you've got a cube has the faces that it has, and then you have 2 cubes, 3 cubes, and you're upping the amount of faces. So when I build, luckily I learned to build 4 virtual reality social platforms. The first thing I built, and a friend of mine actually wants to interview me to talk about my mug that crashed people's worlds, because the first thing I ever built 3D model was a mug. And I followed a tutorial on how to do it, which was a photorealistic tutorial in 3D modeling. And so I learned the hard way that you have to be very careful the size of the objects you create in terms of the amount of faces on the object, because you can make very nice looking detailed objects. But if you bring that into a world, the users in that world have to sort of register every single face, every single angle on that object. And what that does is that lowers their frame rate. So right now I can show you, for example. Tell me to slow down at any point, by the way. If anyone's got any specific questions they want to ask, feel free to jump in, but I can show you this. So when I test worlds, I have a little frame rate count here so I can look around. And ideally you want to see it around 60 FPS in Altspace. In Quest, I'm on desktop at the moment, but you can test it. And if you have too many things going on, you have too many objects, particle effects like smoke, those particle effects, you're sort of, every little tiny bit of smoke is registered. So it's kind of, you end up damaging the frame rate when you do that. Close this. I'll show you a couple other things. I want to show you something. There's a world in here, Nikki, and I don't know if I showed you this world, but it's under favorites. So in this platform, you can go to worlds. If you see something you like, you can favorite it, and it drops into your favorite list here. But I'll just show you a couple examples of sort of things people are doing in here. This is just sort of general sort of meetup spaces people are creating. There's some spaces that people have created from, like I've got on here, more practical for sort of like conferences and things like that. But let's see if this one wants to load. There's a few things going on in this one, so it might take a little while. But in general, load times are pretty good because most people are designing with mobile VR use in mind.
You mentioned XR. I know VR and AR, but what's XR? I don't know.
This again, every call I'm in lately, I seem to just promote a book accidentally, inadvertently. Right, I've got people in here, which is they can hear me now. 1 second. Yeah, so this book, I highly recommend reading this. I'm reading at the moment, but it goes into talk about the difference between it. So when I say XR, I'm normally referring to the combination of sort of virtual reality and augmented reality, and to a degree sort of mixed reality. And, you know, on Project, for example, the project that I'm working on, the business that we're building around therapy, we're talking about XR therapy because we're still determining which technology is most beneficial in terms of what's going to work best for clients, what's going to work best for the therapists, and what's most affordable, and not just affordable, but the least amount of friction in which area. So if you're familiar with, are you familiar with augmented reality at all?
I haven't used it, but I'm familiar with it. Yeah. Well,
yes.
I have. I mean, my mobile phone, of course. Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's different. You can kind of see different uses of it. The simplest one I'd say is sort of people creating filters on their phones. So you can see that's popular with fashion, like in the fashion industry as well, because you could quite easily. An interesting one I've seen a lot now is I think Nike are doing it. I think with you can try on their shoes. So you put the phone camera down to your feet and you can see it kind of creates the filter with the shoe. It registers where your foot is and puts the shoe on your foot, which is actually works pretty well from the ones I've seen. And sort of but there's also the augmented reality glasses, which more companies are bringing out now. And so what we're doing with VR art therapy, we could still look at augmented reality and do it with augmented reality. It would just mean the user would visibly see their space around them and they'd be drawing in their space. So, but we're doing a lot. We're working with Brighton University, and because we're trying to research, the best way to do this and the safest environment to create for people. Because the difference is in virtual reality, you can completely immerse people in an environment. So you could create I've looked at some companies doing it with creating environments to help people get over trauma, or to help people deal with phobias. So you could create something that's, you know, a plane experience, someone on a plane who's afraid of flying, and they could be on a flight with a therapist, or, you know, fear of dark, they could be in a dark room with a therapist. And so there's lots of different ways to do it. I was going to show you this space, but I forget because it's completely live. So there's people in here talking, I can hear, and I don't want to disturb people too much. But this is a sort of a record place that someone created, and you can actually pick up the albums and they'll play music near you. So I threw that away quickly. Don't want it to be too loud for you. Odev, can you hear the sound as well? You couldn't hear the sound. Okay, good. So when you pick them up, I can hear on my end the music playing for the album that I've picked up. And I can hear people somewhere. Oh, they're just down there having a conversation. I feel like I'm interrupting their conversation now. It sounds pretty serious, right? Well, jump out. Let's go to another one I've got up here. All right, this is I think this is sort of an art exhibit type thing that someone's created. So this one's an interesting one because it feels like you're going to fall as you're moving around in this space. But definitely something worth checking out. You said you've got a Rift on the way, have you, Marcus?
Yeah, it might not be a Rift. It might be.
Is it Quest?
Might be a Quest. Yeah, it's one of 2. Yeah.
Oh, Quest 2. Yeah. There's. I mean, the barrier, I think, for a lot of things as well. There's still some platforms, some apps, some software that requires like a wired connection to a PC or a VR ready PC, which you've got Link for the Quest 2, but to use it, you need a computer that's got a good enough graphics card for you to experience that tethered, I guess they call it tethered VR experience. But there's a platform called Museum of Other Realities, or MOR for short. And the things they're doing are really cool. And it's essentially like an artwork museum where you can step inside people's creations. And there's a really interesting one with the doorway, and you step inside and it feels like you've just stepped into the page of a comic book, essentially. And this is quite early on. This is something that really interested me, was thinking about, before I'd seen that even, I was thinking about the idea of like virtual comic books, immersive stories that enable the reader or the user to jump into the page of the stories, to actually have that environment created while they're reading. And this is something I'm seeing people do. And I'm actually speaking to a company that are looking at bringing authors in to do book launches in the space, which really excites me because I can build worlds or virtual worlds around that, and I can create an immersive world that fits in with the story. And they could perhaps do a reading from their book while people are in that world with them, which is something I'm, as I said, excited to work on that. But this is just this is like an art exhibition here with some interesting things.
Do you actually know Robin Wood Statham?
Do I?
Do you know the CEO of the Museum of Other Realities?
No. I've had a conversation with, so my co-founder working on Anomi with knows them a bit better because we spoke to them originally, because one of our ideas from the beginning was to create, early on, we've pivoted a lot with our idea, because initially we were looking at it, because we come from the sort of VR art background, 3D modeling, we're looking at VR art from the perspective of like an artist and creating a piece of artwork, where really VR art therapy is more about stick figure. So you're just drawing stick figures and that they represent something. And early on, we had an idea where we were going to work with artists, and actually two big problems with our idea. One was we were going to take the session that had happened and what the result of the session, which is the art as a result of the therapy, and we were looking to do an exhibit in the Museum of Other Realities, specifically around sort of people using this medium to show and express how, what they're going through right now with COVID. And everyone we spoke to about that was straight away like, you can't do that. You can't use, it's unethical as well to use people's artwork in that sense. I think we were still looking into it a bit with some XR artists and VR artists that are using tilt brush to sort of create how they feel and express it in their artwork. But we kind of pivoted on that because we're like, our main focus is creating a platform that is as simple to use as possible for people to express with stick figures, with very simple shapes, what they're going through. And something that we've found in our tests that we've done, I did one myself and we were working with a coach, and the perspective in VR, the ability to change your perspective, the ability to scale up and scale down, not only does that make you feel safer. So the one fear we had with everything we're doing and why we're really focusing on the research and ethics behind it is that we heard a horror story about an unqualified art therapist who was working with, I think she was working with addicts, and she basically asked someone to draw their demons or draw their demon. And someone drew their demon, and this is just in 2D, and it resulted in the person, I think, taking their own life because they couldn't, it was so vivid, the image of what they've drawn, that they couldn't face it. And, you know, conversations we've had was, imagine if you were in that happened in virtual reality, an immersive environment. So, you know, with what we're doing, we're really looking at like features. And one I've noticed in my sessions, the ability to scale away from your drawing and scale up so you can be above it, really creates this sense of like power over what it is you're looking at, and those perspective changes. It's super important. And I think everyone we've sort of worked with and done these sessions with has noticed it as well, because we've done it with we had the therapist or the coach in this session was watching on Zoom while we were using a 3D art platform. I think we were using Gravity Sketch, which is a 3D art platform and specifically used for sort of art and design. And you know, even people watching from the Zoom session were saying that it kind of felt therapeutic for them to watch the journey. And also the beauty of it is that the narrative, the narrative changes through the course of what you're doing. So you could have a scene or a narrative that starts quite negative, and it just adapts as you go along, and you can change things about it. So it's, you know, the question becomes like, what do you need to do to reach this point? And you could have, I think Nina, the co-founder I worked with on it, she'd done a platform in the middle that she was on, loads of raised platforms around the edges. And her issue was getting those people to see her or what she was doing. And then the scene changed and the platform was raised and everything moved around. So you really got this live real-time feeling that, you know, the things were kind of, she was changing things and getting a more positive perspective on what she was doing. So I think that's really interesting.
The Whitney Museum of Art did a VR installation about someone got beaten on the street with a baseball club. And it was really disturbing because it was so real. And it was an activist installation about looking away or not looking away. I'm not sure if the Museum of Other Realities was part of that. I've pinked the guy, but I had to take them off because I couldn't look at it. It was so disturbing.
Yeah, I think you've probably heard of sort of virtual reality referred to as like an empathy machine before, and what's really interesting I find is the experiences where they put someone in someone else's body or an avatar. So I've seen ones where they take individuals and they put them in a woman's body, and then they have to experience in her body firsthand what it's like to be sexually harassed, essentially. And talking to people after these experiences and seeing people's testimonies after the experiences and what it did to their level of empathy and understanding. And I think, again, it's incredible for, you know, putting people in different environments, different cultures. I think there's so much that can be done with it. And there's so much that people are doing in terms of taking advantage of it as an empathy machine. And what we've noticed in our tests with the therapy from perspective is that you could draw someone in your scene, and you can go into that space where you are, and you could see what everything looks like around you. But then you could move into the space of someone else in that scene and say, what do they see? What do they see when they look at you? And with the scene that we did, that really like impacted us. With two of our sessions, there were three actually. There was three of us that did sessions, and it really impacted us because you almost feel like you start seeing the world through their eyes and see how people see you, which is really interesting. Yeah. But yeah, sorry, I could talk forever, and I'm kind of just stuck in this in this environment right now. Let's move around. Let's see if I can find some popular worlds for you to have a look at around here. Actually, we'll go back to mine. Let's go here. Okay. But yeah, I'll try and give some just a few more examples that we can jump around to different worlds in this specific platform. But again, I'd say let's see if I can go here. It wasn't working when I tried 2 minutes ago. But the club that I created is one of those things that can be used across different platforms as well, which is interesting. Another one is Sansa. Sorry, this is another club I worked on that was for a company called AAVE. If you've heard of them, crypto lending company. The little logo outside.
And I have a question, sorry. And then the people are inside this room and you see each other, or the
yes, yeah,
or
yeah. Right now, I'm sort of taking you to. I don't want to sort of. I can show you. I can take you to a world where there's going to be people. I wasn't sure if you were going to be able to hear everyone as well. So I didn't want to throw you in the deep end there. But let's go to Discover, and let's go to sort of the main space in Altspace where we can see there's 25 people there now.
And then the DJ is over there, and you hear the music, you dance together, or how?
Yeah. So the way that would work is you'd have. Oh, is Nicky jumping in to meet me right now? I can see he's got his Quest 2 on.
Oh.
In the campfire right now. So we can see there's people in here. And you've got people gathered around the fire as well over here. Interestingly, often you have people busking as well. So you'll have people, you can just hear them playing guitar and singing in different parts of the world as well. Well, these are interesting outfits. But yeah, so this is sort of the main, in Altspace, this is the campfire. It's like the main meeting area. And it has sort of areas that people can teleport to go to different events. They'll have events advertised in here as well for people to jump into. Where does this go? Let's see what this takes me.
I'm really interested in this DJ stuff because, yeah, if you see here or here, we have it all at home, but.
Okay. Yeah, I can actually, I can connect you with Natasha or DJ Illuminati, and you can speak to her as well. But so we've actually got an event happening on Thursday that she'll be DJing for in Altspace. So you could come along either how I'm doing it now in 2D, but that will be, so in Altspace you have sort of an events calendar, and so you can actually look and see what's going on in the week. So you've got the different days here. So on Thursday, if we go to Thursday, I do believe it should be featured, but there's featured events and unfeatured events. But if we scroll through Thursday, so we've got here, this is an event that I'm actually going to be moderating in Altspace,
Which world do you want me to go? Should I go to the DJ world?
Do you have access to it? Or you can meet me here. I'm in I can see you online, can I? No.
I can go to the AAVE club.
Okay, we'll jump in there and I'll meet you there. But yeah, so there's going to be this talk on Thursday, and then the after party will be at, so it's, you can see it's going to be 9 p.m. GMT, and that Natasha will be DJing there, or DJ Illuminati. And she actually did a talk recently, which you missed. I'll have to look to see if I think they recorded it, but she did a talk in Altspace with the founder or the co-founder of the Tribe XR, which is the virtual DJ platform. And the talk was about her, talking about her experience and how she became a virtual reality DJ. So that would have been the perfect talk for you to see, but I'll see if they actually recorded it for you. But yeah, if Nikki, if you don't mind, I'll meet you in there. Sorry, Nikki, but if you don't mind sort of passing, or if I can get Nicole's details. Well, I've got you on LinkedIn anyway now. You messaged me.
Yeah,
so
I will get
I'll get
I'm
that
in the
over to you.
world.
Okay, let me see. Have I not got you added on here? I can't see you on my list. There you are. Okay, and this is how you'd go to people. If you, once you've got friends on here, you can sort of just go to them when they're, as long as the worlds are open. So that's another thing as well. You can have private events in here for specifically for people you want to invite. So a company I'm working with at the moment, that's what they want, just a private area where they can invite people to. And now we see
Nikki over there, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if they can hear you. Can you hear Nikki? I don't think you're going to get the sound through my headphones. No, they can't hear you, Nikki. You have to unmute yourself on Zoom.
All right,
I'll mute you.
unmuted.
Yeah. Oh,
Now you can hear what you don't experience.
Right, and
I
as
was
you can
muted
see,
here. What you don't experience is the spatial sound that you have.
I'm muting you. I'm muting you intentionally, yeah, because I can hear you twice.
Yeah, makes sense. So
yeah.
I have to turn off the speakers here because otherwise I don't hear you at all.
Okay.
Very good.
Well, yeah. So yeah, that's another thing as well. You have in some of the tools and sort of functionality you have in these platforms. You have the ability to sort of mute people, kick people from worlds. An interesting one. So it's a constantly sort of evolving landscape, as you get new features coming out. So an interesting one is Altspace have had for a while. One advantage they have over other VR social platforms is that they have a technology called front row. So a big struggle with VR social platforms is that you can only have a limited number of users in the same space. But with Altspace, they have front row technology, so you can have multiple instances. So you could have maybe 30 people in one space, but you could mirror that, and you could still have the guest speaker, or you could still have the DJ visible, and everyone could still see what she's doing. They could still hear the music, but they'd be in separate rooms from each other. And now they've added ways so you can make sure that you teleport to your friend's room or where your friends are in. So, you know, there's features, and they introduced a host zone, which is a good one. I'll show you this now. So let's get this out. So they have their in-world building tools here, which I can open up, and they have, let's have a look. So they have an events tool. I think it's back here, actually.
Am I in the host zone now? Or is it different to my world?
It's different. I don't think the host zone's there, so everyone can see. You won't be able to see it, Nikki, but I've created a host zone now. And if I place that there and then turn it off, you getting a message come up, Nikki?
Not because I was on it. Maybe I have to go back on it, off and on it again. No, I don't have the message.
Oh, I think it's because I'm moving it around. Anyway, it does work. I've just locked it in place now anyway. But it's I'm in edit mode.
Yeah, maybe because you muted me.
There you go. Yeah, so I'm in the host zone now. So can you hear me through Nikki's? I just heard myself there. So they have tools like this where you can have, as soon as someone steps in this zone, they will appear across all instances. So they are broadcasted live across all instances, and their megaphone is switched on. Because early on with events in here, we had, you have issues where people don't realize how to switch their megaphone on or certain functionalities, and they're just sort of making it easier so people just step into an area and they go live essentially, and everyone can see them and hear them. But yeah, you can just see the message there. See Nikki looking around.
And just for that, so for playing music, for example, if you're DJing, are you playing music in your real space in your bedroom or in your room at home, and it's broadcast through the system, or are you playing it in virtual space?
So the way I can show you now, that you won't be able to hear it though, as I said, you can't hear, don't seem to be able to hear my sound through here. But there is, let me see if anyone's in that world. I can show you a world which just shows an example, one way to do it. You should be able to follow me, Nikki, if you want to. I think it smells beachy beach.
UK.
Where are you? Oh, okay. Let's see if I cannot go to you.
I'm not there yet. Give me a second, just see if I load in. But it should be an open world, so you better get there. But you actually have browsers, so what you can put a browser in the space. At the moment, what Microsoft, it's ever changing. So, for example, Microsoft, the latest tool that they have is a thing called a web projector. Wow, my face is green now because of this. So they have a web projector, but so you can use it through your browser, and it just will mirror what's on your browser in world. So you could have YouTube. So, for example, Natasha will stream to YouTube, and then we'd use the link to bring the music in here. And this is just an example of a screen that someone's created where you can search. Give me a song name, any song name.
Chandelier from Sia.
I can't even spell correctly. How do you spell chandelier?
I'm sorry. I cannot go to you, by the way.
Let's go see what it comes up with. But this is, again, people creating their own tools. Let me see if I can send you an invite quickly. That's a message. Come visit. Let's see if that works. So we've got chandelier here. So if I click on it. So this is, I'm going to turn it down because you can't hear it anyway. But so it started playing chandelier. An interesting thing that someone was showing me, which I didn't know much about, was the sort of, I don't know if you've looked much into sort of 8D, sort of 8D music. So if you go on YouTube now and you've got headphones on and you search for 8D music, this music that has this kind of surround sound effect in your headphones. And it feels so much more immersive as a sound. And we're talking about trying to introduce that. So like for live events in VR, if it's possible to do 8D or if it's only sort of post-production. Hey.
You start dancing.
Yeah, you're not dancing. I don't know if you
can. I don't hear the music.
Oh, I turned it down. You come over here. You've got the volume control over here, and you've also got the roll off, so you can kind of control when it gets quieter. It's on 0% right now. I'll turn up. It's 5%. Can you hear that?
Nope.
Oh, you're turning up louder for me.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I don't have any sound.
You might have to reset the jump back into the space or just reset the player. What does this one do? I do like this song. This was a good choice. But yeah, so this is sort of like an example of one way people do things in here. I think Microsoft, like Altspace being sort of a Microsoft product, like they're creating their own sort of official solutions, sort of web projectors and things to have in here. But you've also got people who are creating their own using the scripting tools in here. So they're creating. So for example, I use for the conference I did with Immersive X, I use a slides player, which someone's created themselves. And you can import slides from slides.com. So for conferences, obviously that's very handy, but it also gives people, I'll show you if I can bring that up.
I'm under a shark. I'm swimming with the sharks.
Where are you?
In the water. I'm swimming with the sharks.
Oh, you're over here, are you? Oh yeah. You're falling in there. We throw you a rope to pull you back out of there, but yeah. there's some strange things you see in virtual reality worlds as well.
Ooh, it's getting deeper.
I imagine if we were in, there's another one called VR chat, and I don't know if you've heard of it, but you can't explore VR chat without experiencing something strange, like turning up to see something really odd that people are doing. I think I saw a sort of a cat riding a walrus in VR chat, and these were two different people as avatars, and they've created a way so one could sit on top of the other while the other moves around. Some really weird stuff was in there. But yeah, are you okay down there?
I'll figure it out.
Well, I'm down here. I'm down here with you now. So we're both trapped together.
I mean, I'm particularly.
Here we go. Very good.
Sorry now.
Thank you for giving me fresh oxygen.
I'm really interested in the corporate applications of it as well, sort of business applications. It was interesting what you were saying as well, Nicole, about how you'd use that with a vision mission discussion. Was it a workshop?
Yeah, it was in a workshop, and the aim was, but it is already a year ago, and I think it was not that far developed, everything. Right. To bring the leaders of a company into a world when they reach the vision mission. So vision mission is always something in the future, and you have to go there and you have to do several steps, and to make this vision real for them, we wanted to bring them in this world with virtual reality, and also to bring them their company values, their brand values closer, that they know what you understand, and how they work with the values, that this future perspective is getting real for them. And this was the idea behind to do this with the leaders. We did it in a lower kind of setting, but it was not here. But I can imagine how it will work with these possibilities I see here. So amazing.
Yeah, so it'd be good if I let me see if I can let me just have a look. I'm going to see with the team.
It will help people to change. It would help people to think about why it is worth to change and all this kind of stuff. So I think it's yeah.
Oh, I found
that's what really interests me, actually. And you know, I came across only a couple of weeks ago a company called Engage VR, and Liam, I don't know if you've come across them.
Yeah, Engage. I've been into Engage. Engage is a great platform. Their focus obviously is more sort of like on education.
Yeah.
And they're doing some really cool things. Like one of their features they've got, which really interests me, is the ability to record.
Yes.
So you can have a speaker come up on stage in virtual reality in their 3D avatar, and you can have the students in the room, and they can record their movements on stage and their whole talk, and then you can play it back. So you could have people in the room and it would play back their movement as they moved around the stage, as well as it will what they're saying. So you could do an event in there, and then you could have students that were perhaps not available to attend that could replay the lecture in there. So they could hit play, come in, and they could see the lecture, and it still has that sort of level of engagement to it. And, you know, if they started bringing objects into the environment and to help demonstrate what they're talking about, or 3D assets, the students would see those as well. So they'd still get that sort of interactive lesson, you know, more than just someone handing them notes. So they'd still be able to experience it. And they have, sorry, I'm still sharing my screen, aren't I? I just realized that. But this is, I'm going to actually send this over onto the chat if I can get this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. There we go. And I'll put this in the chat.
So I think that it is the engagement. Obviously, in the more social space, you have this incredible engagement. I think, Nicole, you were saying as well, it was about engaging the leadership. And, you know, I was amazed when I first put the Quest on, how engaging it is. And this Engage VR, I had a meeting with one of the guys from Engage just to explore a bit more about, you know, how it works and how I could potentially use it. And I realized I was looking his avatar in the eye. And, you know, the body language and everything. And he was talking, his hands were moving. and I'd forgot that I was in a virtual environment. It was really engaging, actually. I was very surprised.
My first experience in High Fidelity was approaching one of their teams. So they had like a help desk. So, you know, and I love that idea. Like I was saying, Nikki, I love the idea of setting up a company on one of these platforms and having a team sort of working there so you could have someone on reception. And that's things I'm working on now, slowly building a team around me. And the first person I met was a photorealistic avatar. And I think I freaked them out because I was getting really close to the face and looking at them. And they were like, what are you doing? And I was like, this is so, it's weird. It feels like, and that's the thing as well. You get sort of people criticizing where things are at, the stage that things are at, by saying, you know, it's never going to compete. It's never like, so I've had someone at the Natasha's talk, which I've just put the link up, by the way, Nicole, which is the YouTube link I put in is Natasha's X talk, which is about her as a VR DJ and how she became a VR DJ. But someone at the end, one of their questions is, you know, this can't compete with the real world experience. And what we kind of talked about, and I talked to the co-founder afterwards, the Tribe, is that people are forgetting that it doesn't need to compete with it, especially with everything going on now. It's not trying to beat it. It's not trying to beat the solution in the physical world. But as I said, and so many people I know have had these experiences in VR, like you said, where they're like, wow, whether it felt like I was immersed, it felt like I was in there. It was different. Do you know what I mean? It was better. Like the quality of the engagement and the immersion was better than being in a Zoom call with someone. And we've had it. I'm part of a sort of a UK XR group, and we had like a Christmas meet up recently. There was only I think it was about 5 or 6 of us turned up in the end, but it just felt natural. Like it felt real to be communicating with people in this way. And there's a lot more there to having like a Zoom. Like I enjoy Zoom calls, but there is just something more there, and especially when you're in virtual reality as well. And not only that, you're attracting a different audience as well. So I said, you know, my experience with like I've never been to a festival, live show, live music. Like I get sort of overstimulated sometimes, or sort of like hyper stimulation type thing. And my only way to deal with going on a night out was a lot of alcohol. And that was because it would quiet that noise down. There was too much noise. There was too much going on. I'd be focusing on everything. I couldn't enjoy myself. But then events in VR, I don't have to worry about that. So it's kind of like you're attracting like other people that otherwise wouldn't, you know, attend these events in real life as well. And also I've noticed another thing as well is bringing people, because I'm very much focused on not just using it as a way to escape reality, but like how it can benefit you in real life. And I've seen people that have opened up through social VR. So they've been quiet, or they've had a problem with their mic. So they've not been talking to you. You can never hear them talking, and they just stand there. But then they gain this level of trust and this confidence, and then you start hearing them talking more. And that's kind of carries over to, you know, then they become more comfortable in phone conversations and things like that. And I think also the anonymity helps in some VR social platforms. And I've seen videos of almost sort of, not with qualified therapists, but sessions where people are opening up, where they've got they're an anonymous character and they're opening up about issues. One was a child opening up. He was as a Kermit the Frog avatar in VR chat, and he was opening up about being bullied in school and what that did to him. And, you know, he had that anonymity, like no one knew who he was, which again which is why with Facebook and what Facebook are doing, what Oculus are doing with the account attached, you know, people worry that, okay, you're removing something that's really good there in terms of anonymity. But also in these platforms where you do have that anonymity, there's also people who are trolls and who will cause trouble on those platforms. So it's kind of like a balance there with what they're doing.
My man, we actually have hit the top of the hour already, and I'm also marshal of time, and I respect your time. Thank you so much for being there, introducing us, for the demo, for your experience. I'm super excited. I personally might need your help, or will need your help for the VR tour.
Yeah, let me know. Yeah.
And I hope you'll participate. It's 5 sessions, it's 1 session every day.
Yeah, I'll come along for sure. Yeah, and thank you all as well for having me. It's good to see some of you again. I've seen you before, and it's good to meet the others I haven't. And thanks for having me. It's an honor, Nikki. So I've been listening to some incredible speakers in the sessions that I've turned up to. So it is definitely an honor.
Thank you so much. Have a
you.
wonderful evening,
Great.
late afternoon and evening. All the best too.
Yeah, thank you. And if anyone wants to talk, just reach out to
I'll
Nikki.
connect you.
And as you can see, I talk too much and at a very fast rate, so I could go all day.
Thank you so
I
much.
connect you. See you soon.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.